Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, fitness enthusiasts. How are you? How are you doing today? This is Sin with Redefining Fitness at Sassfactor Fitness, and I hope your fitness journeys are progressing. Now, if you're here, I suspect that you're still looking for some answers to questions about getting your progression faster, more consistent, or restarted despite fatigue, overwhelm, frustration, chronic injury, and or pain. And I'm with you there. I feel all of those things. And I remember feeling unfit, in pain, overweight, and miserable. And everywhere I looked, people were just simply saying, just prioritize it. But honestly, how does one prioritize away pain? How does one prioritize away depression? And how on earth do you prioritize away caregiving responsibilities? You can't, not really. So I took it upon myself years ago to set out on my own and find a way to get my former fitness back. And let me tell you, folks, it was tough. There weren't many people out there focused on the health and wellness of fitness enthusiasts of a certain age who were very, very deconditioned. That was me. That was where I was at. Frankly, most of the information that I came across was geared towards individuals with very little athletic background who were transitioning from sedentary lives, which is great. It just wasn't my story. There was also a lot of information out there, a ton of it, on 20 to 30 somethings with challenges that didn't seem to deep dive into the behaviors and boundaries that develop and become more ingrained over our late 30s and into our 40s and 50s. And that's really important because that's where a lot of us are. We're trying to battle these other things that have happened as we age that is also interfering with just our regular desires and our normal trajectory and our energy pools, right? We have a lot going on there. But no one was talking about any of that stuff. And no one was talking about reprogramming and how to reprogram decades worth of mindsets, habits, and limiting beliefs about how we should be living life at a certain age. I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of people out there telling us at each stage of our development, each stage of life, what we should be doing, what we should be focused on, what our priorities should be. We're getting inundated with that stuff. And meanwhile, we're still up here looking at being involved in activities that people are kind of excluding from us. A life that excluded activities that are usually attributed to youth. And that honestly, if you're here, many of us, many of you are still looking to enjoy. We still want it. We still want to be involved in those activities. But no one's talking about that. Nobody is talking about how to be 30, 40, and 50 and do things that a lot of us out here believe that is reserved for people a lot younger. So I didn't find anything out there. And in fact, it seemed like no one was talking about fitness, not in a real sense, for people who come from a more athletic background and yet have the privilege to be of a, shall we say, mature age. So that was my cue to go on out there and figure out those questions for myself. And can I tell you, the answers that I received on my journey were not at all the answers that I was expecting. And now I want to share them with you. I want to share what I found out. One of the things was along the way, I realized that each time that I struggled with my fitness, my peace and my balance was disrupted, meaning that my peace and balance was not in alignment. And when they weren't in alignment, there was disruption there. I couldn't stay in my path and on my journey for fitness. I was off. I felt uneasy. I felt like I just couldn't keep things going. I didn't have the ability to sustain things. In those seasons, I spent a lot of time focused on things that I thought I was supposed to be doing for people I thought I was supposed to be doing them for. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about service. And honestly, I believe that we are here on this earth to do more than just grind our life away for money, struggle to satisfy our own individual desires, and then crawl away and die somewhere. I don't believe that. I believe that through service to others, the community, the world, that we can unlock the door to untold resources that would allow us to live a life we've always dreamed of. But in order to do that, we need to serve with balance and mindfulness that includes our own needs and capacities. So that was the first aha moment that I had in this journey. I also realized that my energy levels rose and I had space and capacity to develop and maintain my fitness in seasons that I was more balanced in my service, that those times that I respected my personal boundaries around my capacity to give, and in the moments that I drowned out the noise of others' expectations of me, or even what I thought those expectations were. And instead, in those moments, I poured into myself. I learned that in both of those scenarios, whether I was being mindful of my capacity or I was not being mindful of my capacity, I learned that regardless of what I was doing, my fitness wasn't bound to just working out. That the success or lack thereof started with my mind and spirit. And without addressing the turmoil in those areas, no fitness plan would stick. And in fact, no fitness plan did stick when I had turmoil going on in my mind or my spirit, when I wasn't respecting my capacity. So, one of the first places that I recognized that I needed to address to fix that issue was my capacity. Now, the truth is, capacity is often a barrier to sustained fitness, not motivation or commitment or dedication, like people tend to say, or has been beaten into us by voices all over the world and the internet. Case in point, some of you are packed to your limit with commitment and responsibilities. You have jobs and families, you're caring for children, your parents, you have active social lives, and you're also exhausted out there trying to do all the things and be everything to everybody. No level of commitment and dedication and motivation can get above you burning yourself out. And I know that feeling because I've been there. And I still struggle with being there. But the truth is, when we overload our capacity, we are usually unable to function well. We are unable to function well for ourselves or the things and the people we are so desperately trying to be there for. Something has to be released in order to make space for what you need, for your fitness, for your health and well-being. And by not figuring out what it is that you need to release, you end up jamming one more thing onto an already full plate. Capacity gets pushed even more, which is unsustainable, and things start falling off the edges. And the first thing to go is usually the last thing you added, the last thing you piled on top, because it hasn't yet become a habit. And guess what that typically is? Right, your shiny new fitness plan. I understand so much how that feels. You start and you stop over and over again because that fitness plan that you added last, that healthy nutrition plan that you added last, that new thing that you're going to do to get your life in order that you added last, keeps toppling off of the pile of things that you have on your plate. And I understand that releasing those other things, releasing whatever it is that needs to be released, can be hard, right? We're all hanging on to everything, thinking that, if we give something up, that somehow we're a failure. And that comes from our programming, especially for women who are programmed to believe that taking care of self first is selfish. And selfish in an unbecoming way that's kind of considered unfeminine. Now men, on the other hand, are allowed to be a little bit more selfish in this area, and it's weirdly kind of accepted in a strange way as masculine. Now, I'm not saying all this to get into a debate about men and women or to bemoan certain facts, but I do want to put that out there to identify that this could be an issue, name it, and then to allow us to decide for ourselves, for you to decide for yourself. If this is the case for me, what do I do now? What do I do now? Well, the first step is to check in with your mindset and see if the story that you've been told or the story that you're telling yourself about your reality is that you can't do it. What are other people telling you? What are you telling you? Is it that it's a wrap? That other things and other people are more important? Are you someone who believes that you come after everyone else? After your job or your family? If so, I challenge you to ask yourself, is your mindset setting you up for failure? Now, I'm doing this myself. I've actually had to distance myself from people, even the well-meaning, that tell me or make me feel like this is it and that I have to accept that my current reality isn't going to change. And it's not going to change because of how old we are, how old I am, whatever's going on in my reality at the moment. Now, I have to distance myself from those people and those environments. Now, I'm not distancing myself forever, but I am doing it until I can get my mindset in a position to drown out voices that are ultimately unhelpful for me in those moments. Because let's face it, many of us are here right now. We're searching the internet. We're scouring because there's a voice inside of us. There's a vision that we've been getting about what our life is supposed to be about what our fitness level should be about the activities that we can be engaged in. We hear that voice. It's sticking with us. It nags in our guts. It pulls at us. It sits there and it talks at us in the day when we're doing things that we're thinking, I really don't like this. Why am I here? But we think we're supposed to be here. And we're not taking care of that thing that the voice and that vision is pulling us toward. And we are in that struggle a lot of times because we're listening to what other people are thinking, because we're listening to what we've been told is supposed to be what we're supposed to be doing and what we're supposed to be focused on. But when we do that, we end up in the place that we are in right now, feeling off and feeling inauthentic and out of alignment. So I've been pulling myself back to get out of those situations and to get away from those voices. And I've honestly been off the grid for a moment as I'm looking at my own capacity and my own limiting beliefs, because I'm no different than you. Life continues to happen to me just like it's happening to everyone else. And in my line of work, injuries continue to occur, and the journey back from them gets harder each time. Now, I'm a person in the world, I'm a woman in this society who's received the same programming around what appropriate levels of giving are as a feminine woman and what is generally deemed selfish. And I've had to struggle with that, right? I've had to struggle with that the same way that many of you have had to struggle with that, because I too receive negative feedback in a variety of ways when I go against the grain. And I get positive feedback in the form of societal rewards. I get some of the things that I want, right? I feel good from the validation of others when I follow the rules, regardless of how I truly and authentically feel inside. Have any of you guys been there where you're doing these things because you feel good based on the validation that you're getting from other people, because it actually feels a little bit better than being off on your own, listening to that voice and chasing that vision, chasing that pull in your gut, but being by yourself? So we end up kind of inauthentically out of alignment with ourselves, seeking validation for other people, regardless of how I truly and authentically feel inside in those moments. And even when those societal rewards do little to nothing for my overall and long-term well-being, those societal rewards do little to nothing for our overall well-being. It's done little to nothing for my overall well-being, And that's basically because those rewards are temporary and they're generally set up to benefit someone else. In other words, you get the temporary hit that makes you feel good so that you continue to conform, but then a few moments later, a few days, a few months, sometimes a few years, that nagging feeling comes back, that voice comes back because you haven't been listening. So I get it because I've been there myself. And I understand what it's like when you're doing that and we're taking on so much to be tired. I understand what it's like being in pain before I've even gotten out of the bed, of feeling exhausted and lacking energy all the time, being depleted after giving up everything I had to everyone else, of being overweight and feeling uncomfortable in my own body because it's not the body I was designed to carry around. But the thing that keeps me going, the thing that I hang my hat on and gets me up every day and gets me able to reach into that capacity and take one more step, is that I know that though I feel that way in those moments, that state isn't forever. I can change if I do what needs doing for me. Now, I'm not saying I don't love myself or I haven't accepted my current reality. I'm not saying any of that at all. What I am saying is that I'm doing all of these things with an eye towards the future and knowing what I'm capable of. And that is to fulfill my fitness potential and restore my inner athlete by reconnecting to myself and the world around me in a helpful and healthy way. And this is something you can do as well. It is possible to love yourself, be open to and seek improvement all at the same time. Now, I've yet to fully implement the changes I'm making in this season of my life to make room in my capacity and grow it in a healthy manner. So progress for me in each area may be slower than I'd like after this most recent injury, but it will be consistent as I rotate through each of the 3 building blocks to forming a foundation of fitness. Like I said, my progress may be slow, but I am running again. I am getting stronger. I am losing weight. I am showing up more and more as my authentic self. I do have more energy and I am still creating content. And I expect that the pace on all of these things will pick up as I release what's holding me back. Now, I say all of this to say this. Even if it feels like you are moving at a snail's pace, even if you feel like it's taking forever, and you really aren't seeing the needle move on the progress you want and think you should, keep going. Because you are making progress. Even if only a little, you are not where you once were. So keep going. Redefine fitness to transform your mind, spirit, and body into the fit powerhouse it was meant to be. To learn more about the 3 building blocks to forming a foundation of fitness, click on the video card above and subscribe to this channel to learn how to reconnect with yourself, fulfill your fitness potential, and restore the athlete within. Until next time, this is Sin at Sassfactor Fitness, reminding you to mind your matters.